All right, this is the Minority Alliance Organization meeting for this Thursday, September 3rd, 2020. Today we're going to be discussing misinformation, the effect that misinformation has when it comes to minorities being able to vote and affect things in their community. And then our second topic that we'll jump into a little bit later will also be about what constitutes as success in this upcoming election cycle. What are we looking for, and what can we do with what we have on the docket as far as what we can get possibly, even though may not be exactly what we're looking for. So with our first topic here, when it comes to misinformation, we have to deal with voter suppression, and we know that as a fact of life when it comes to minorities and how their vote is tabulated, how their vote is counted. But another key element to that is voter manipulation. And voter manipulation happens mostly through misinformation. We get a lot of different versions of misinformation, from everything from commercials to Facebook ads to the media pundits who've been on TV for 20, 30 years. So they're kind of a trusted voice and a trusted word, giving information that is either a half truth or a complete untruth, or something that's thoroughly manipulated and designed to kind of either fan the flames of what minority needs and wants are against, all the way down to, disenfranchising minorities and getting them to not vote at all. So we've seen it over the years and over the decades in different election cycles to manipulate and push around our vote when they're not outright suppressed. So I wanted to first turn to Cullen here to, take me through, what you think about this particular subject and what you see going on when it comes to how voter suppression and voter manipulation is done through misinformation.
Now, I would say through misinformation, I was listening to a little bit of information, doing research on it the other day, and there was a guy doing an interview. I forget the guy's name there, but basically the point that he made is you have to check your news, anything you find on Facebook, because most people, they get their news directly from Facebook nowadays. Most people don't go, either it's Facebook, Fox, or CNN. Those are the top news sources for most people. And when you see a article on Facebook and you say, oh, well, how do you know if it's real or not? You know what I'm saying? You have to go take that article and you have to validate it between at least 5 other news sources, is what he was saying. Because a lot of things, especially in election years, there are a lot of ads and articles posted on Facebook, and a lot of people automatically assume it looks real and they believe it, and it looks believable basically. And you can't always go off of, certain things that look believable, because, that's kind of the reason why Donald Trump is in office right now, is because the huge, misrepresentation through the news when he was the election year that he ran, So my true belief is, especially as minorities and minority communities, the news has never been on our side. It never has been. I mean, as long as I can remember, as long as I can think back prior to even before I existed, the news hasn't been pro-minorities. It's always been spun a certain way to manipulate, especially our communities, more so than any other one. So I believe, with the stories of police brutality when they originally started, you had the stories of police brutality in the early 2000s, and the view that the news had put on it then was, oh, well, this guy was a criminal and they were coming to get a criminal, and then this altercation happened. They always shined a bad light on the person who was affected. And that was the view of police brutality in the media in the early 2000s. Later on, now more recently, the news perspective, when they shine a light on it, they don't shine a light on that. Then they say protesters, or they try to make protesters seem like everybody's right. Everybody who's out protesting, whether you're peacefully protesting or not, the media portrays it most of the time as you're a rioter, a looter, or somebody who's anti-government. And that's not 9 times out of 10 the reason you're protesting. Is you just are protesting because you want equality, you want things to change within the country. So, as I believe, people can't take You can't take 9 times out of 10 any news source. You can't go off of one news source and say, you know, I can validate what they're saying about Biden, or I can validate what they're saying about Trump to be the truth. And that's what you base, how you vote off of, is listening to just the media instead of, into one media source or just two media sources. You have to listen to a lot of different media sources to get the truth in what the story is, and 9 times out of 10, whatever they can agree on is what to at least be the truth. So you can at least go off of that, to start out.
Absolutely. I think from where I look at it is, number one, you have to consider the source. I mean, obviously there are left-leaning media, there's right-leaning media, and all of them have a vested interest in us kind of either being completely disenfranchised or going along with with a party line and with a party vote. What we do see, and some of those elements that you spoke to, I mean, we still see them today. I mean, we still see the media diving into the background of a black man getting shot today, and we're looking at an arrest record from 17 years ago. Or we are taking a look at a couple of burning trash cans or a broken windows in a business, and we're calling it violence in the streets when we're not talking about the violence that started the protests in the first place. And a lot of those things are designed in many regards to kind of disenfranchise and put you in a position where you think, well, it doesn't matter if I vote or not. It doesn't really matter because nothing's going to change and nothing's going to go anywhere. Nothing's going to do this, nothing's going to do that. You almost never hear any type of news outlet, whether it be on mass media or in Facebook, talking about some of the down ballot stuff and the things that really affect communities the most, being local communities, sheriffs, judges, different proposals that go in, different ordinances that put money from cities into specific programs that either help or hurt a minority community. You almost never hear about those things at all. For a lot of people, the first time you see any of these things is when you're actually in a voting booth looking at a proposal going, what is this? So you have to consider the news source, and we have to be a little less willing to just take whatever information is thrown to us. And we have to actually do a little bit on our own and kind of, it doesn't take very long to see what is actually on, what's going to be voted on in a particular election cycle where you live. Not just, okay, well, we got president, we got a senator, we got a couple of representatives. What else is on your ticket? What else is on your ticket? Because there's going to be a lot there. And Facebook is not a news source. Like, people have to understand that, and that, a lot of news, you'll see a lot of news on there. Every news organization has pages on there, but what it is, what Facebook is a glorified search engine, and it is not there to give you facts. It is there to continuously use an algorithm to continue to push advertisers in your direction. That's how Facebook makes money. And it's also to kind of put you into this vacuum where you are constantly reinforced, not on different ideologies and different ideas so you can form an opinion. It's based to reinforce an opinion you already have based on likes, loves, comments, pages you click on, things like that. It continuously builds up this algorithm about you where your particular worldview is constantly reinforced. And then if you really want to push somebody, you can just introduce one little thing into that kind of field, and it can kind of just push you over the edge, where a person who is on the fence about whether they should vote anyway is given that one last little thing to go, okay, well, that's it. I'm not even participating. And that's a victory. Every time that happens, every time we, with the numbers in these neighborhoods who can make this change, when one person gets taken off the board based off of some BS information, that's a victory for those people who are trying to keep that status quo in check. So we have to, not just for ourselves, because I believe there's, for people to even get into groups like this, there's a heightened awareness, at least of yourself and of your area. And now, as much as it's incumbent upon ourselves to educate ourselves on what's going on. It's also to help educate those around us and our loved ones, our kids, things like that, and make sure that they're protected from that information too, because across the board, people are being constantly bombarded with the type of information that's going to push you in one way or another, or if you have a thought process based on something that you like, it's going to continue to push that process and not allow you to think critically at all, or put you in a position where you think you don't matter. And we do, and our vote does. And there is nothing, this election cycle more than any other, we have a lot on the line on whether we're going to be able to get a foothold and move forward over the next few years, or whether we're going to slip back, and some of those slip backs are going to become permanent. So we have to, more than ever, vet our information, consider the sources of our information, not kind of fall for the okie doke one way or the other, and be able to explain to our family members, explain to our children, and explain to our friends kind of that, hey, I know what you heard, but, take a look at this over here as well, because it's completely different from what you may think. So I think those are the sort of things that we absolutely must have going into, this election cycle to kind of deal with misinformation. I mean, fascism is not quick. It is a slow erosion of the, things that we, want and believe in, rights that we have, being slowly given up and taken apart piece by piece. So definitely some good points there. Wanted to go ahead and jump into our second topic here, which is, what constitutes success in 2020? Obviously, we have the candidates that we have at the top of the ticket. We have the candidates that we have in our Senate races and in our local races, and not all of them are the candidates that we wanted or candidates that we hoped for. Some of them do not have a record of the type of change and the type of, grassroots kind of effective change that we're looking for. So when you have something like that, going on, based on some of the things that you hear, it's important to kind of understand that even if you don't have the candidate that you're looking for, there are going to be pieces and there are going to be parts of these things that are going to be important, that are going to be helpful, and that at least, if nothing else, leaves the door open for us to be able to insert some of this change as we go along and into other election cycles, and as our voices continue to grow and continue to be heard, as more of a spotlight is put on some of the things that we're dealing with and some of the things that we're seeing, that those doors don't get shut in front of us. So, I wanted to put that question out there as to what do you believe, based on what we have in front of us right now, what do you think constitutes success, and how do we keep ourselves from getting to a point of disenfranchisement where you feel like it doesn't even matter?
I think you really overall won't see the effects, and I mean, not to say it won't be an immediate, sense of how you'll see the ways that the election has affected, policies and certain things, but just the way that our politics are set up in America, you won't see the level of success that we're trying to, I don't want people to go expecting things to change tomorrow. I mean, that's just the, truth and reality. But what we are expecting is for at least policies by the beginning of the year that Congress is bringing to the forefront, the policies that they need to be pushing need to be policies geared towards, especially the minority community in our instance, more so than anything. But more overall, things that benefit the everyday American, benefit the middle class American and the lower middle class American trying to make it and, get a good foothold into the middle class. So I believe we got to start seeing these policies put into place by the elected officials, that the new ones that are coming in. We need to start seeing what some of these policies that you were running on, you need to already have your bills ready and be able to start getting them brought to the floor and talked about, or at least, putting a spotlight on them so that people know about them. And I mean, whoever wins as far as the presidency, we need to start seeing difference in actions and plans that they have going forth. As I said, we're geared towards what affects the minority community more so than anything. But as I said, I believe the lower middle class and the everyday middle class American, quote unquote middle class American, uh, we need to see more of these opportunities that we're being told of in the media, because we have yet to see them come to fruition. So, it's been years that we've been, promised hopes and dreams over and over again. We've been promised, change. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Success for us in this election cycle is determined upon us seeing the true change, even the start of it, the spark of change starting to happen, you know?
Right. So, number one, I agree with that, and I think that we have to look at it as a kind of, we now more than ever, is the time to listen to, first of all, do our candidates that are up here right now, do they actually have a plan? Is it rhetoric, or is there actual plans behind that rhetoric? And I would definitely recommend going, visiting some websites and actually listening to some of these speeches, if nothing else, just the highlights. Here, listen out for plans. Is there some policy behind some of this, kind of the rah-rah stuff that we're going to hear from people, and can we take from those plans and put together ourselves, kind of a mental checklist, if not even a physical checklist, of the type of policies that we're looking for that will affect us, that will be able to affect, change in the community and raise them up. I mean, a raise in the minimum wage, for example. There is no state in this country where you can survive on $7.25 an hour. Yet the minimum wage has been there for decades at this point. Healthcare is a human right. I mean, obviously, as an African American, we, just based on, many other factors, are going to face greater health risks than many other communities. And during times like this, where we have pandemic going on and other situations that we have, our ability and access to the type of healthcare that can help put people on the right track, education. Can you become educated and get into the workforce without coming into the workforce in horrific debt? I mean, you being in school yourself, I mean, I know you understand the truth and the power behind stuff like that. I mean, so, are we hearing any policies that really affect the things that are going to allow us to get a leg up and even be able to stand and be on an equal playing field, even if we could get someone that could help, that can help curb some of the violence that we're seeing with police and help kind of curb some of the system of, of racism. It's called systemic racism for a reason. It's a giant system that has so many little tentacles, so many intricate parts to it. Are we going to see some cracks in the shield? Something where we can get a foothold into, and something we can hold candidates accountable to if they don't. So I think those are the sort of things that, if I see, for me personally, if I see some legitimate plans, some things that are like attainable, something that you can actually hold on to, and I can say, okay, I can go with that, and I can definitely hold somebody accountable to that with my own vote if I'm not seeing it. So I think that's, definitely, what kind of does it for me as far as what I'm looking for. If I don't hear any plans, if it's a rhetoric heavy, kind of plan where it's like, oh, in my America you get this, or in this other person's America you get that, there are no plans there. That means that you're attempting to sell me on what is a worse alternative as opposed to what you can actually do. And again, when we, it kind of bleeds together with the misinformation piece that we're talking about, where someone is attempting to sell me a car. I need someone to sell me a country right now, and not a car. So we need to look at those sort of things, and that's just what's important to me.
Yes, sir. I mean, overall, as I said, success for us is what really starts to move the wheel, what really starts to get the policies and change that we're seeking. And I mean, there are a ton of candidates, as I said, every year that come and promise you this and promise you that. And I mean, we've just got to get behind the candidates that are keeping the same story. They're sticking to their guns. They're going to Congress, so they're going to the Senate to truly fight for us.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen some of that happen. We've seen the youngest Congress in history go up. We've seen the most diverse Congress in history go up in the last couple of years. That is positive, and we need to give it credit for being a positive thing. But at the same time, that doesn't mean we've made it to the mountaintop. Far from it. It just means that we've actually got a foothold. That that we're starting to get a foothold. That we've gotten we got an old pickaxe out, and we've gotten it into the rock a little bit. We need to be able to actually get on here and be able to climb and be able to get ourselves, up that summit. So, it's definitely, you can see where, there's momentum, and you can see where there's some energy, just need to continue that and have that continue to, lead to more and more and more things. And we cannot, we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves to where we think, okay, well, these things are, in the forefront now, they're on the news now. So, everything's going to change. And then if those things don't change immediately, you go, well, see, I knew it, nothing was going to change. A system as old as this is and as well built as this is does not collapse in a day. So we have to understand that, it's going to chip away, and it's going to be pieces of it, and there are going to be some compromise. I mean, governance is a system of compromise. So there's going to be a little bit of that, and there's going to be some things, there's going to be some give and take, there's going to be some crawl before you can walk sort of situation. So I think that's super important for us to remember as we go into this election cycle. So as we've gone to the end of our two topics, I just wanted to turn this over to you for a second, see if you had any remaining comments, and then there's going to be a last little thing that I want to drop before we end our meeting today.
Yes, sir. I got a couple things there about the organization, a couple things that we have going on. I want to say thank you and welcome to a lot of new members. As me and Mark were discussing a little earlier on in the meeting before we started, we would like to hear a lot more topics, discussed through this platform, and we would like a lot more people to feel, members to come and interact. If you would like to bring a topic to the forefront, something that's important to you and what we're trying to get accomplished and the change that we're seeking currently, feel free to, either DM, comment on one of the videos, dive in, and, if it's something you want to learn more about, really, let's let this organization be something that we're all a part of and growing.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a true minority alliance organization, which means, we are allied. We're all allies in this. Everybody has a voice. Everybody's got a home, and there are going to be topics that are going to be important, to us that another person may have a completely different take on, and may have a completely different spin on that makes it important to them. So please put it out there. Please, participate, join in, and, get your topics out there. We want to continue to learn, and we want to continue to, put out these things and kind of help all of us with, number one, our own, kind of political literacy, our own kind of understanding of what's going on around us, what we can do for our areas and our neighborhoods. I mean, obviously, we just, recently completed that school supplies drive, which was an awesome thing. We want to continue to have events like this. We want to continue to be able to actually do things and actually put some action behind all the words and all the great thoughts and all the great posts that we have. And, it's a positive energy. It's one of the first times that I can recall, being able to find a group online and find a group on Facebook and actually have some positive, action behind some of the words. It's not just rhetoric. It's not just memes. It's not just posts. It's people. And people are our greatest resource, and they always will be. So, always remember that. It's what the foundation of this alliance is built on. And we would love to hear some more voices and some more topics, that are, important to all of our members. So, don't be afraid to put it out there. Please do.